everyone, and welcome again to Rationally Centered. Today, I'm going to share my perspective on 5 phrases that I think feminists should stop saying. I'm absolutely a feminist, but I think that the movement needs to make some changes if we're going to continue to be effective at eradicating sexism. And some of these changes include adjusting our language so we can get more people on board to the feminist cause. The first phrase that I think feminists should reconsider is toxic masculinity. The concept here makes a ton of sense. It's about how society forces men to have certain negative attributes, like being aggressive, violent, and forced to bottle up their emotions. These toxic elements can be harmful to men, women, and society as a whole. The problem, however, is that the phrase doesn't delineate between these toxic elements of masculinity and other more positive attributes. And as a result, men just feel like we're demonizing masculinity as a whole, and they tend to just really shut down whenever we use the phrase. The other problem is that there's no real counterpoint of toxic femininity, and as a result, it makes us sound as if we think being feminine is better than masculine in every case. Ultimately, I think the real problem is gender roles, and how both men and women are forced to subscribe to certain traits because of their gender. So I think something like toxic gender roles is a more accurate phrase that doesn't focus on one gender versus the other. The second phrase that I think feminists should stop saying is male tears. Male tears is a phrase typically deployed on social media that makes fun of men when they're getting too riled up or upset about something. I think it was originally used in the context of feminists talking about their experience with sexual abuse and sexual harassment, and men getting very upset about that and trying to silence them, which I agree is a completely unacceptable behavior. But I think lately it's kind of mutated towards making fun of men for being emotional in a lot of different contexts, which is literally exactly the opposite of what we want to do. We want to encourage men to feel comfortable expressing their feelings, and using the phrase male tears does the opposite. So I think in this case we should just call out individually when a man is being unnecessarily insulting or silencing or irrational to a particular point, but we absolutely shouldn't make up a phrase like male tears to specifically make fun of them for being a man that's upset. The third thing that I think feminists should stop saying is a lot of the recently invented words, the most common being manspreading and mansplaining. In the case of manspreading, to be honest, I just think it's a really silly concept. Yes, it's true that men sit with their legs a little bit farther apart, but A, they have valid physical reasons for doing so, and B, we have purses. The word manspreading, I think, actively makes the feminist movement look bad, because it makes it seem to the outsiders that our priorities are really silly, and that manspreading is one of the biggest problems of feminism today. So, I don't think we should use the word pretty much ever again. It makes us look bad, and men are sensitive about it, and I think instead, if you see a guy who's taking up too much space on the bus, just ask him to move. The fourth phrase that I think feminists should step away from is that women can be sexist. I believe that in the vast majority of the cases when sexism is occurring, it's perpetuated by men against women. But I think in today's society, there's certainly some cases where it's men who are being sexually harassed or otherwise negatively impacted by discriminatory behavior. The dictionary definition of sexism also allows it to go in both directions, and while I don't think we necessarily have to adhere to the dictionary, I think sometimes, just for the sake of clarity, it makes things easier, as I think it's better to agree to the same definition versus spend your time debating about what a word means instead of actually addressing the core problems at hand. So for me, as long as a man is willing to recognize that sexism is a huge problem for women, and that institutionalized sexism, which we need to dismantle, is something that impacts womankind, if they want to use the word sexism to describe specific examples of sexual harassment or other negative behavior against men, I think that's probably fine. It's ultimately not that big a deal, and again, I don't think that debating about word choice is really going to be the thing that moves the needle and makes America better. The last issue for me is the idea that if you believe in equal rights, you have to be called a feminist. Personally, I'd really like it if everyone identified as a feminist, but I understand that in today's society, the word comes with a lot of baggage. For me, ultimately, it's the concepts that are more important. So if somebody agrees with me that we need to fight for equal rights and equal treatment of all women, and that there are still existing issues of sexism that exist in today's society, that's good enough for me. And they can call themselves whatever they want, as long as they're willing to work with me to address those issues. At the end of the day, I get that women are frustrated. I myself am certainly frustrated. And I know that it can be annoying for us to feel like we have to police our tone. But ultimately, if our goal is to persuade others to become feminists, or at least adopt our views, then we need to acknowledge that tone and word choice matter. And I think we need to at least consider adjusting our language so that we can be more persuasive. That's the only way we're going to convince others to get on board and support our cause. That's my opinion, at least. As always, I'd love to hear yours. If you're interested in staying involved, please join the Rationally Centered Facebook group. I've included the link in the comments. And follow me on my social media accounts. If you like this video, please also subscribe to my YouTube channel and share it with any friends who you think might enjoy it. Thanks again for taking the time to listen, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.